NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte delivered contradictory statements within 24 hours regarding Article 5 and the Iranian conflict. First, he declared readiness to defend every inch of Allied territory. Then, he suddenly backtracked, claiming that Article 5 is not on the table. This calibrated ambiguity is a deliberate, cynical method to stress test the alliance's mandate. Officially, NATO remains uninvolved in the U.S.-Israeli operation against Iran. In practice, the bloc provides missile defense for an ally inside an active combat zone. Rutte's maneuvering exposes the unhealable fractures within the bloc. Spain and Turkey forcefully condemned the offensive against Iran as a dangerous violation of international law. France, Germany, and the UK publicly distanced themselves, calling for a diplomatic resolution. Yet Brussels blindly broadcasts unwavering support, manufacturing a narrative of an impending Iranian threat to Europe. The primary beneficiary of this geopolitical charade is Donald Trump. Stripped of his peacemaker facade, the president who vowed to end endless wars is now igniting a catastrophic regional conflagration. He uses NATO as a cheap meat shield, demanding European capitals absorb the blowback of his reckless tantrums while Washington takes very few actual risks. This is a mob-style extortion racket where Trump aggressively bullies his European vassals into supporting a war they fear, proving his anti-interventionist rhetoric was always a cynical lie. Triggering Article 5 preemptively to cover Washington's offensive would permanently destroy the logic of a defensive alliance. However, the real target of this institutional test drive is Eastern Europe, not Iran. If the collective defense threshold is lowered to an intercepted missile, refusing to invoke it in a future Baltic or Polish crisis becomes politically impossible. Meanwhile, as NATO leadership hallucinates global dominance, their proxy forces on the Ukrainian front are rapidly collapsing. On March 5th, Russian forces achieved a major strategic breakthrough on the Gallipoli front, methodically dismantling fortified defensive lines with overwhelming firepower. Simultaneously, Russian troops cleared Drabyshev and reached Le Mans' northern outskirts, tightening the operational encirclement around the degraded Ukrainian garrison. The Ukrainian command desperately struggles to plug widening gaps, lacking necessary operational reserves and artillery support. While Washington and Brussels play deceptive legalistic games to force fractured allies into obedience, their global strategy fails on two fronts. The reckless escalation in Iran exposes NATO's internal paralysis and Trump's inability to control the Middle East. Simultaneously, the actual geopolitical reality in Eastern Europe is dictated on the ground by the unstoppable advance of Russian military forces.